Think that Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively have what it takes to bring these characters to life, and I cannot wait for you guys to see that happen. I'm going to do my best to sneak y'all as much footage as I can without getting kicked off the set. I'm so excited, y'all. I can't even wrap my mind around this, that I'm going to get to go on set, that I got to read the amazing script, and I know y'all are going to be happy. Y'all are going to be happy.
Hey besties, welcome back to the channel. We've got some major tea brewing today, and it's all about the so-called smear campaign against Blake Lively that, according to new evidence, never actually happened. The receipts come straight from Wayfarer's publicist, Jen Abel. So, Jen Abel is the main player right now, and she's just filed for a summary judgment against Stephanie Jones. Now here's where it gets interesting. Stephanie Jones isn't even officially a party in Blake Lively's lawsuit. Why? Because Blake chose not to sue her. Even though Jen Abel was working for Jones Works, the PR firm responsible for promoting It Ends With Us, Blake decided not to sue the firm itself or its executives. The latest court filings show that Jen wasn't acting alone at Jones Works during that campaign. In fact, multiple people at the firm were involved in managing the publicity. And according to Jen's declaration, no smear campaign ever took place. What's even more significant here is that Jen is trying to hold her employer, Jones Works, accountable. She wants them to indemnify her for any legal claims that Blake Lively made against her. Essentially, Jen is asking the court to issue a conditional summary judgment on one of the 3 counts listed in her third-party complaint. She's seeking what's called common law indemnification, which basically means that because she worked under Jones Works, and her current legal troubles stem from work she did for them, Jones Works should be legally responsible for any damages that come from this. She's saying to the court, "I've done my part. There's no factual dispute here." And even though Blake's case hasn't gone to trial yet, Jen argues it's in everyone's interest, hers, Stephanie Jones's, and Blake's, to know in advance who would ultimately be liable for any damages. That way, Blake knows who'd have to pay if someone's found responsible. Stephanie Jones can plan her next legal move, and Jen herself can prepare for what's ahead. They even cited several legal precedents supporting why the court should decide this now. But if the judge can't rule immediately, Jen's asking the court to at least keep this motion pending until trial, and if she's later found liable, she wants that summary judgment granted in her favor so that Blake would have to seek payment from Jones Works, not her personally. Now, here's where it gets even juicier, besties. What stands out most is that this entire motion reinforces what we've suspected all along. There really wasn't a smear campaign. We kind of knew it already, but the preliminary statements make that even clearer. This motion, to be specific, is only between Jen Abel and Stephanie Jones, determining if Jones Works is financially responsible. It's not directly against Blake yet, but if this is a sign of what's coming, we might soon see each person involved filing their own summary judgments. That could simplify the entire legal mess. According to Jen's filing, she was employed by Jones Works to provide PR services for clients like Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios. Under Jones Works' direction, she handled media relations and publicity for Wayfarer, particularly during the It Ends With Us promotion. In mid-2024, rumors started swirling online about supposed on-set tension between Justin and his co-star, Blake Lively. So Jen and her PR team at Jones Works discussed strategies to promote positive coverage and minimize negativity, standard PR work. But here's where the betrayal begins. Stephanie Jones, the CEO of Jones Works, allegedly breached her contractual duties by secretly informing Blake Lively about the internal PR discussions meant for Wayfarer. Soon after, Blake used her company, Vans Incorporated, to file what Wayfarer describes as a frivolous lawsuit in New York, one that didn't even name Wayfarer as a defendant. And shockingly, Jones Works cooperated with this move. Instead of fighting a subpoena from Blake's legal team, they handed over communications between Wayfarer and Jen, something that any other firm would have legally challenged. From those messages, Blake allegedly constructed a narrative accusing Jen of helping to retaliate, when in reality, Jen was just performing her regular PR duties under her employer's supervision. The court filing states that all of Jen's actions were done within the normal scope of her job, meaning Jones Works knew about and approved them. Under New York law, that makes her eligible for full indemnification by her employer. Whether or not Stephanie Jones realized it at the time, her decision to side with Blake Lively essentially betrayed her client, Wayfarer Studios, and created new legal risks for her own firm. And honestly, that part almost feels satisfying because it finally calls out the obvious. Stephanie Jones allegedly turned her back on her client to protect herself and Blake, unknowingly creating this tangled mess. It now looks like both Blake and Stephanie may have conspired to shift blame. Blake possibly promised not to sue Stephanie if she cooperated, while Stephanie tried to escape her own liability by throwing Jen under the bus, painting her as the mastermind behind a smear campaign that never existed. Wayfarer's position makes it clear the whole situation was orchestrated to cover up Jones' Works' breach of duty to its client. But what's even more telling is that Jen provided her employment agreement, her NDA, and Wayfarer's contract with Jones' Works as part of her evidence. Remember, a summary judgment doesn't debate the law, it's all about the facts. And the facts here are powerful. They show Jen was doing her job exactly as her contract required, which means she deserves legal protection. Those same documents also poke massive holes in the entire smear campaign theory. Jen even detailed what the Jones Works Wayfarer agreement required: $25,000 per month in PR work, including writing press releases, planning marketing campaigns, aligning brand messaging, monitoring media, and keeping the client updated on projects and events. Wayfarer then submitted a declaration by Jen Abel summarizing all the evidence that proves her work was legitimate PR on behalf of Jones Works. The only reason Jen's name is in this lawsuit at all is because she was doing her job as a Jones Works executive, specifically as the vice president of PR at their California office. She explains that her role was always based in California, and that Wayfarer was one of her key clients, but it was Stephanie Jones who personally assigned her to handle that account. In other words, if Jen hadn't been working for Jones Works, she never would have had any professional connection to Wayfarer at all. Jen goes on to describe the full details of her employment agreement, how her contract worked, what her duties were, and how each of her tasks clearly tied back to Jones Works. This breakdown becomes crucial because it proves that all the work she did was directly for her employer. That, in turn, completely dismantles the smear campaign theory. When you look at the evidence, especially the long text message threads, you realize that those so-called incriminating quotes Blake Lively shared were cherry-picked and misleading. In full context, those comments look totally different. Once you see the complete 15-page exchange instead of a single snippet, it's obvious that Blake's claims were exaggerated and distorted. And what makes this even more shocking is that Blake has access to all this evidence, yet she's still clinging to her version of the story. It's not a good look. The longer she refuses to let go of the false narrative, the more costly it becomes for everyone involved. In fact, if Blake loses, Wayfarer could legally recover its attorney's fees from her. Some parts of the documents are sealed, so we can't view everything. But what is visible includes a key admission from Jen. She acknowledges that on July 31st, she texted Jamie at Wayfarer about a conversation she'd had with an independent journalist. The journalist wanted to cover the fact that Justin Baldoni had been excluded from some of the film's promotional events, and was apparently ready to write about Blake Lively's alleged misconduct. Jen admits the conversation happened, but makes it clear she never followed up with the journalist afterward. She didn't give them any additional information, didn't refer them to anyone, and ultimately, the story was never published. She essentially told them about what was happening, but that's where it ended. For a journalist to publish something credible, they'd need confirmation from multiple sources, and Jen made sure that didn't happen. She says plainly that she didn't connect the journalist with anyone else on set. So, while Blake's team claims that Jen was planting stories, the truth is, no story ever appeared anywhere. Then, on August 2nd, the tag group sent Jen a document for scenario planning. It outlined the main objective: to protect the public reputation of Wayfarer's clients before, during, and after the movie's premiere. The document also listed goals for managing online and media narratives. This file was shared with Jen because she was an official Jones Works employee assigned to handle Wayfarer's publicity. In this communication thread, which Stephanie Jones herself created, multiple team members were included: Stephanie Jones, Matthew Mitchell, Jen Abel, Melissa Nathan, Brianna Caslow, and Katie Case. The email thread also included Wayfarer's representatives. Jen explains that this entire shared communication channel was organized directly by Stephanie Jones, and that Stephanie was copied on every single message. Every update, every email, every note. Stephanie saw all of it. She was completely aware of every step being taken in this PR campaign. Then on August 5th, Sony Pictures, the studio behind the film, raised an issue. They didn't like that the word friction was being used in press materials to describe the on-set dynamic between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. In response, Jen suggested replacing it with the word challenge. The idea was to tone down any negative buzz on social media and shift the narrative toward teamwork and creativity. She wanted to highlight how, as the director, Justin successfully brought everyone together to create something special, including Blake. That was literally her job, to align messaging with Sony's wishes, manage tone, and ensure everyone involved, including Blake, was happy with how things were being presented. She was doing exactly what a publicist is paid to do. Jen even has the full text exchange from that period, showing the discussions between her, Justin Baldoni, and others. For some reason, Justin's name appears in the text log as Henny Grace, but it's clear from context that it's him. In the messages, Jen tells Justin, Sony's not comfortable with the word friction. They think it'll turn into clickbait. They don't understand our full PR strategy, but let's stick with challenge and emphasize your leadership in bringing everyone together to create something amazing. She also praised his comments about the intimacy coordinators and stunt teams and how Blake was deeply involved in ensuring everyone felt safe on set. She adds, "That's excellent," and reminds him to focus on the positive team dynamics instead of feeding rumors. So she's literally coaching him to keep the message professional and diplomatic, ensuring that no one, especially Blake, looks bad. That same exchange includes the now infamous Hailey Bieber comment, the one Blake Lively's camp later used to claim that Jen and her team smeared her. But in the actual messages, it's clear that it was just a passing mention, not some secret plot. The full thread shows that the supposed Hailey Bieber connection never developed into a planted story or PR leak. It simply stopped there. Nothing more came of it. Then, on August 7th, Jen exchanged text messages with other Jones Works team members, Matthew Mitchell, Melissa Nathan, Katie Case, and Brianna Caslow, about the growing online chatter surrounding Justin and Blake's separate press appearances. That same day, Katie Case sent an email to Heath and Jen Abel using their official Jones Works email addresses. The email discussed strategies for digital mitigation, narrative management, and overall reputation control for Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios. This point is crucial. These communications weren't being sent to Jen's personal Gmail or private number. They were strictly routed through her official Jones Works account, proving she was acting in her professional capacity. Not freelancing, not gossiping, not acting independently. Then, on August 8th, Jen texted with her Jones Works colleague Matthew Mitchell, along with Melissa Nathan and Katie Case, about more negative online comments regarding Justin. Some sections of those texts are blacked out, but the meaning is clear. Monitoring and managing online discussions about Justin Baldoni was part of Jen's assigned duties as a Jones Works PR executive. Her entire job revolved around protecting the brand image of her clients and managing press reactions. Nothing about that qualifies as a smear campaign. In other words, every text, email, and note from that time supports her story. She was doing her job exactly as instructed, under the supervision of Jones Works, for the benefit of Wayfarer and its clients. A large portion of what Jen ended up submitting was filed under seal, so not everything is visible to the public. However, the attached documents include a copy of the agreement Jones Works had with Wayfarer and the detailed expectations of the services Jones Works was supposed to provide. Jen then describes her email and text exchanges with Nathan, discussing various articles about a rumored rift or tension between Baldoni and Lively, along with potential media coverage of the situation. On August 10th, she texted with Heath, Mitchell, and Nathan about a Hollywood Reporter article and several TikTok videos involving either Lively or Baldoni. One TikTok from May 17, 2023, showed Baldoni and Lively in a friendly, lighthearted atmosphere on set, which contradicted the feud rumors. The Hollywood Reporter article at the time focused on why it was important for Baldoni to create a movie centered on domestic violence awareness. Then, on August 11th, while acting in her official capacity as an employee, Jen advised Wayfarer through text messages about matters that remain redacted in the public record. 2 days later, on August 13th, she again exchanged texts with Heath, Baldoni, Mitchell, Case, Koslow, and Nathan, this time discussing a TikTok video that praised Baldoni and another that criticized Lively's approach to promoting the film, calling it insensitive to domestic violence victims. By August 15th, more messages were exchanged between Heath, Baldoni, Mitchell, Case, and others concerning positive public feedback, though parts of those communications are also redacted. On August 18th, Jen texted again with Heath, Baldoni, Mitchell, Nathan, and Koslow about more TikTok videos related to the movie. One of those videos, dated August 17th, 2024, even called the film one of the best movies ever made. Jen pointed out that Jones Works profited from all this work as she was paid $25,000 per month, and her employment officially ended on August 21st. However, payments from Wayfarer to Jones Works continued until at least August 30th, proving the partnership still existed even after she left. Importantly, Jen made it clear that she never boosted or spread any negative content about Blake Lively. Some of this evidence remains sealed, but she emphasizes that Blake's own testimony and responses in discovery show that her claims against Jen are based solely on PR work done as part of Jen's job at Jones Works. Therefore, Jen argues that Jones Works, not her personally, is responsible for any liability tied to those actions. Whether the judge decides to rule on this before trial is unclear. But as I review the exhibits, nothing really jumped out as evidence that Jen or Wayfarer were running a smear campaign against Blake. In fact, it seemed quite the opposite. Jen had signed a strong non-disclosure agreement, NDA, and included the PR contract Wayfarer had with Jones Works, which renewed yearly. She even attached communication logs about a phone call she referenced in her July 31st message. In that message, she allegedly told colleagues, "Confidentially, I'm out to dinner with a close friend of over 12 years who writes for People magazine, Fox News, In Touch, and Us Weekly." She's fully briefed on the situation and ready to take the story about Blake weaponizing feminism to any outlet we choose. She already dislikes Blake, has heard about this before, and will do anything for us. So your call, Jamie, was perfectly timed. She's armed and ready. I'll connect with Melissa tomorrow, just in case we need to use her. This was essentially a backup plan. If Blake publicly said anything damaging, they'd have a journalist ready to respond. However, Jen maintains that nothing was ever published by that reporter, which could easily be verified by checking her bylines. She also attached the scenario planning documents that outlined how to handle the situation strategically. But interestingly, these exhibits revealed something far bigger, evidence that Blake was allegedly working with the Hollywood reporter behind the scenes. According to Jen's filing, Blake herself was linked to the unfavorable articles about Baldoni, the ones portraying him as difficult or unprofessional on set. Moreover, the documents show that Sony Pictures executives were aware of it. Specifically, Tom Rothman, the CEO and chairperson of Sony Pictures Entertainment, had to personally step in. He reportedly tried to intervene by speaking to someone named Leslie, telling Blake to stop leaking stories and cut the behavior altogether. At one point, an internal message suggested that Rothman believed they could smooth things over if we get that New York Post piece killed and Leslie agrees to a truce. This indicates that media stories were actively being planted to paint Justin in a negative light, while Blake's team pushed her side of the narrative. These planted stories weren't small either. They appeared in major outlets like The Hollywood Reporter, The Daily Mail, and others. The fact that the CEO of Sony had to get involved to tell Blake to stop leaking damaging information says a lot about how far this had gone. And when you think about it, that's not a good look for Blake. It suggests that the very behavior she accused others of, spreading false narratives, might have actually been coming from her side all along. When I started reviewing all of these documents that Blake once claimed were proof of a smear campaign, I realized something important. There's absolutely nothing in them that supports that claim. What the documents actually show is the team simply monitoring what was happening, discussing the constant wave of stories that Blake herself was leaking about them. Over and over again, the messages show them saying the same thing. We're not responding. We're staying quiet. We're not engaging. But this is also where things began to escalate. Around this time, the Daily Mail article was published, and when journalist James reached out for a comment, it wasn't Jen who got involved, it was Stephanie. She's the one who contacted Lillian at the Daily Mail and gave them a story about Blake. That move completely shattered the fragile truce they had managed to keep intact for so long. And yet, even with all these pages of messages and exhibits, there's still no evidence of a smear campaign. The messages simply show the team reacting to Blake's leaks and figuring out how to manage the situation. Things got so out of control that even Sony Pictures had to step in because of Blake's behavior. In another set of messages, we see names like Jamie Heath, Katie Case, Brianna B., and Matthew Mitchell all involved. And guess what? Matthew Mitchell works for Jones Works. He was part of these group chats, making decisions, and staying in the loop about everything. It clearly wasn't just Jen managing the situation. Matthew's inclusion shows this was an internal, company-directed effort, not an independent campaign against Blake. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni himself was constantly reaching out, sometimes daily, to make sure nothing unethical was happening. He wanted to confirm that no bots were being used, no fake accounts were defending him online, and no one was crossing any ethical lines. There are multiple examples where he messages the team saying things like, "Hey, I've been seeing random accounts on Instagram defending me. They're private, no followers, they look like bots. Can you confirm this isn't us? I really don't want bots defending me," it feeds into their narrative. Every time, the team reassures him that no, they're not using bots or fake accounts. Melissa even responds, explaining that bots look fake to everyone. That's not what we do. There's no bot army, that's a myth now. Fan accounts grow organically through AI and analytics. We're not doing that. So, if there really had been a coordinated smear campaign, why would Justin be so persistent about not engaging in shady online tactics? Why would he demand transparency from his own PR team? Clearly, he wanted to keep things ethical and clean. On August 9th, another example pops up. A reporter named Daniel Welsh from the Standard UK reached out to Stephanie, not Jen, asking for a statement. Stephanie forwarded the email to the Wayfarer Studios team, saying, "Good morning from London," and including the journalist's inquiry. Matthew Mitchell responded that he would take care of it. So, Stephanie was receiving press inquiries, forwarding them to her team, and directing responses. Yet publicly, she claimed she wasn't involved at all, which clearly isn't true. Under penalty of perjury, Jen Abel made a sworn statement saying, "I never published, planted, or pitched any negative content about Blake Lively. I never communicated with or worked with any content creators to spread negative stories. I never boosted or amplified any harmful content about her." She submitted this declaration to the court, backed up with exhibits showing the full context of each interaction, proving her actions were part of her normal PR duties, nothing malicious. Jen explains that she bears no personal responsibility for any claims or damages Blake is alleging because every action she took was while employed at Jones Works, under company direction, and within the scope of her regular job duties. She emphasizes that Jones Works supervised and approved her work, and that she never acted for her own benefit. When you go through the text messages, it becomes clear. Jen was helping Justin prepare for interviews, crafting professional talking points, and ensuring his comments aligned with what Sony, Wayfarer, and even Blake's team wanted publicly represented. Her job was to keep everything polished, professional, and on-brand. She even wrote in her statement, "Jones Works knew that I was working with Justin Baldoni on his press tour. They also knew that our team was monitoring social media activity and responding to press inquiries regarding the film." Multiple Jones Works employees were involved in these communications. So again, Jen wasn't acting alone. Everyone from Stephanie Jones to the Chief of Staff Gordon was involved and aware. One specific press inquiry about alleged on-set drama was sent to their joint email list, which included Matthew Mitchell, who confirmed he'd handle it. Jen also mentions that it was Stephanie herself who instructed her on how to manage the situation, telling her to flood the zone with positives. Stephanie allegedly advised them to create alternative narratives and mobilize supportive content creators, meaning influencers and journalists who could counter negative stories. Some would speak on background, as anonymous sources, while others would go on record, publicly denying false claims. So, the entire crisis management strategy was coming from Stephanie, not Jen. Jen was simply following company directives and doing her job. Jen also reminded the court that she had successfully managed every prior crisis for Justin without any negative press. She explained that she was included on all communications involving Melissa, Matthew, and the other PR staffers, proving that she was part of a larger coordinated team, not a rogue agent running a smear campaign. She goes on to claim that she's only being named as a defendant because she left Jones' works, and that Stephanie betrayed her. According to Jen, Stephanie exposed her to Blake, filed a baseless lawsuit to escape her own liability, and essentially made Jen the scapegoat. She adds that Blake then used material funneled to her through the situation to file another frivolous lawsuit, even though Jen had nothing to do with it. Her argument is simple. If anyone's liable, it's Jones' works and Stephanie, not her. What's even more shocking is that some of the same materials Jen provided in her legal filing are the ones Blake tried to seal from public access, labeling them confidential. But when you look closely, those documents show that there was no smear campaign at all. Nothing. There's no trace of planted stories, no fake accounts, no coordinated attack. Just a team managing a PR mess caused by Blake's own actions. This also explains why, in recent weeks, Blake has been trying so hard to get ahead of the summary judgment motion because she knew this was coming. She knew the evidence didn't support her narrative, and that once the truth came out, it wouldn't look good for her. So, what Jen has presented isn't just a defense, it's a complete dismantling of Blake's entire claim. And while this filing isn't directly against Blake, it gives us a preview of what's likely to surface next. It strongly suggests that Blake and Stephanie may have worked together, each suing others to gain leverage and protect themselves. Stephanie's lawsuit, for instance, appears designed to divert attention from her alleged breach of contract, accusing Justin of misconduct that apparently never happened. Meanwhile, Blake's case seems to be built on taking snippets of messages out of context to construct a false story of being smeared. In reality, it looks like both lawsuits are tactics to control the narrative. And remember, even Tom Rothman, the CEO of Sony Pictures, had to step in and tell Blake to cut it out. That's not a good sign for her credibility, especially now that those communications are public. It's going to be fascinating to see how Blake reacts once this becomes fully public record, because as of now, it just did. So what do you think? Does Blake have a solid case here, or is this the end of her argument? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and tap the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time, besties.